It is my very big honor to introduce through video the amazing story of Erik Erikson.
So I've been doing stuff like cycling pretty much forever. Played sports in college, did a lot of stuff after college, and an Ironman finisher and the whole stuff like that. The reason I was on a longer bike ride, I hadn't been on a 70-mile ride in a number of years, my brother and I had planned a trip to go to France in July. And so just getting ready for that. So that day I had planned to ride my bike, we live in South Boulder, planned to ride my bike to the Carter Lake Marina and back, which I've done 50 times over the last 30 years, maybe 150 times, I don't know, a lot. When on the way back, I always stop at the, if I stop at the same store. There's only one store in Hygiene, a little Hygiene market. I remember looking at the woman and ordering my burrito, and I remember riding south on 75th Street, eating my burrito, and that was the last thing I remembered until, 7 days later, Friday.
My dad, oh man, he's incredibly positive all the time. He's encouraging, yet holds a high standard for my brother and I. I don't know why this is hard to talk about.
Yes, our kids are 24 and 25 this month. Yeah, they've always done all the stuff. They've been easy for us. Everyone has challenges in life. Our kids were never that challenge for us. You know, we've done a lot of stuff with them, of course, as parents do over time, and put the idea in their head when they were 8 and 9 that they wanted to play college sports, whatever that may be. And they both ended up playing college baseball.
I didn't think of myself as somebody who was the caliber to play Division I baseball at an Ivy League school. I just knew that my parents were the caliber to raise somebody who could play Division I baseball at an Ivy League school.
You know, I was proud of them when they were 2 and 3, hitting a wiffle ball in the backyard. You know, they've always been a lot of fun. And certainly the highlight of my life is those kids.
I was about having 2 boys, wanting them to know how to talk about their feelings. And so I would do icebreaker questions at the dinner table.
It would go with my mom trying to ask an intentional question or identify a feeling on the feeling wheel.
I even had a feelings chart where they had to point to a feeling and tell what that feeling was and why they had that feeling that day.
And my brother and I, at like the age of like 8, are like, do we really have to do this? Like, can't we just watch baseball or something?
I'd like to think that they were grateful, so.
Just so grateful for how they raised my brother and I, and just what they did, just on a day-to-day basis to love my brother and I. My parents were amazing.
So I believe it was a Saturday, driving into Boulder on Highway 119.
I was driving my daughter to softball. So we were on the diagonal road and
there was a triathlon going on. And so they had closed down one lane of traffic. So we were all going very slow, maybe 10 miles an hour in the traffic lane.
You know, we were sitting there and I kind of out of the corner of my eye saw this guy riding, and I kind of saw Erik go down.
One cyclist riding along just fell over. Didn't crash, didn't run anything, just fell over.
But it looked really weird because it didn't look like he hit anything or whatever. So in the back of my mind, real quick, I was like, is that a medical event that caused that? Or did he hit something? You know, it was up a ways, right?
And I just kept thinking, somebody stop.
And then I saw a guy pull over real quick and run over to him.
Nobody stopped. So I pulled over into the median and jumped out and got there, and Erik was just non-responsive on the ground. Some other cyclists started to stop then. Someone verified that they had called 911.
It was early in the afternoon and we'd gotten a telephone call from the paramedics that they were inbound with a gentleman who was observed to have a crash on his bicycle. We were already thinking there's sort of two big possibilities we need to be concerned about: cardiac issue and also trauma issue. So we actually initiated a cardiac alert and a trauma alert on this patient based upon the information we had.
Bill rolled up and said, "Have you started CPR?" And I said, "No, he's breathing." And turns out, because I'm not all that educated, it was agonal breathing.
And I noticed he had agonal respiration. I noticed he was not breathing.
I guess that's actually the throes of death.
Every time I've seen near death or a death-like experience, I've noticed somebody going into that agonal breathing episode. And so I checked for a pulse, and he did not have a pulse. So I directed the other bystander and said, "Hey, we need to start CPR."
He was actually having a massive cardiac event. And thankfully, because of that triathlon, the motorcycle medics showed up pretty soon thereafter.
And a medical crew that was close by was able to come by and actually put him on an AED device and found out that he had ventricular fibrillation.
And ended up defibbing him a couple times, if I remember right.
And was actually shocked back into a normal rhythm.
And then you continue CPR. So Bill was amazing, kept asking for meds and kind of instructing and leading the way.
They ended up intubating him, got a line, I think pushed epinephrine on him.
Even though he was on a ventilator, and it wasn't because he wasn't able to breathe on his own, but it was because he was so active and feisty.
We've all heard the term fighting for your life. I think that's a great example of that.
I feel like this was 10 minutes in at least when ambulance arrived.
And at that point, it was time to load him on the stretcher.
He was brought to the emergency department emergently for further evaluation.
I was out back cleaning our shed, and so I didn't hear the phone. And the emergency room had tried to call, the sheriff had tried calling. Sheriff knocked on the door, and when I didn't respond, he came around the back gate. He shared that Eric had had a bike crash and a heart attack and was in the ER.
The patient showed up, was brought into our resuscitation room where he presented with obvious signs of a head injury. He was combative, not making sense, nonverbal, and had no idea what had happened to him. He was seen by myself as well as Dr. Leibowitz from the trauma surgery and Dr. Shapiro from the cardiology service right away.
So when I met him in the emergency room, unfortunately, he was not able to respond to questions. So I had kind of limited information about what happened.
We did an EKG on him quickly and did see that he had evidence of an ongoing heart attack. He was taken over for a complete set of trauma scans
to try to help us make sure that he didn't sustain any life-threatening injuries in his fall.
Fortunately, those scans showed no evidence of an obvious injury. The patient was taken up to the cardiac catheterization lab fairly quickly by Dr. Shapiro and his team.
When we brought him to the heart catheterization lab, we found 100% occlusion of his front artery. So when people talk about the widowmaker, that's what they're talking about. We're looking at Eric's arteries in the cath lab. And so what we see right here is that the dye is kind of hanging up, you see there at the end. And so there should be continuation of blood flow down a big vessel here. And so that's the area where the acute blockage is that's causing his heart attack. He had cholesterol in that artery, and then the cholesterol plaque had broken open, and then he formed blood clot on that artery as well. And so there was no blood flow going down that artery. That caused his heart to go into a dangerous heart rhythm, so he didn't have any blood flow to his brain. What we see is we actually put a wire across that, and then we try to suck some of the clot out with a special device. And we still don't have blood flow down that vessel. So then next what we do is deploy a balloon into that artery, and we balloon and crush the plaque and the clot into the vessel. And we're starting to get some blood flow down the vessel. So we see the vessel coming in two different branches. And then what we'll do is place a stent. During the procedure, he got very sick. His blood pressure went down substantially, and we had to put him on some medications to help keep his blood pressure up high enough to sustain life, and then transferred him to our intensive care unit.
Drove myself here to Boulder Community, and on the way used Siri to call Eric's mom, my dad, our kids, his brother, his sister, I think our prayer chain at church.
She just said, "Hi, I'm on my way to the hospital. your dad had a heart attack while he was riding his bike. So I bought a flight the next morning. I flew out at like 6 a.m., got to Colorado, and then just went right to the hospital.
Eric had already been in surgery and they put a stent in and he was recovering in the ICU.
He was a 2-to-1 from what I remember. That means 2 nurses taking care of 1 patient.
I was her second. She was primary.
Mass transfusion protocol, got multiple units of blood.
So he was on 3 vasopressors to maintain his blood pressure. There was hanging blood. Plus he was on the ventilator, so suctioning.
Patients are pretty sick when they have 2 nurses for just 1 patient. So.
There were 2 seasoned nurses that had about, 50 years of experience between the 2 of them. They've both been here for many years.
We always joke that Krista and I probably have like 60 years between us, nursing.
Both of us have each have 33, 35 years each.
Part of ICU nursing is not, just taking care of the patient, but explaining to the family, what are we doing,
So we don't just have 1 patient, we have multiple. We have the son, we have the wife.
It's part of being an ICU nurse. It's great.
I remember walking in, my mom was there with some of her close friends. I saw my dad. He didn't look like my dad. He had tubes everywhere. He didn't have the same color to his face. He was beat up.
That was the hardest day and the most difficult, I think, and the most critical for him.
My brother showed up a few hours later. He saw my dad. He came to realize what was really going on.
Thank you so much for praying for me, buddy. We've been friends forever. Hope you're well. I miss you. I'm going to be good.
After that, he did not improve as people thought he would from that procedure. And so a second procedure was done to augment the pumping of blood from the heart.
When you have an Impella device placed,
It actually can supply the amount of blood flow that your heart would supply normally.
you're on blood thinners. And so he was on heparin, which would thin his blood out, which contributed to him bleeding.
And he required multiple blood transfusions and medication to keep his blood pressure in a safe range overnight.
They had to take the Impella out because he was bleeding so much.
So when Eric was getting the Impella pump out, they didn't wait to take him to another room. I was in the room. This was a very serious situation, and I held Eric's hand and I prayed and I pictured what I learned as a kid, the 23rd Psalm, and going through the valley of the shadow of death. And I was just saying those words, and I don't know if it was all night, but it was a long time. And that helped me.
And then thereafter, unfortunately, he continued to have issues with blood loss.
I couldn't figure out where all this blood had gone. We had already looked at his chest x-ray and there was no blood in his chest. And Dr. Mahan said he'd lost a couple hundred cc's, but that didn't account for 10 units of blood that were transfused overnight.
Despite the fact that the imaging in the emergency room didn't demonstrate any bleeding,
We decided to repeat the CAT scan of his torso, and what we found was the explanation for where this blood had gone. He had a liver laceration as well as a spleen laceration, and that changed our direction, and we took him to interventional radiology.
Where Dr. Farbach was able to embolize the artery leading to the bleeding.
Through a technique where they go in with a catheter through the groin artery and find the bleeding in the liver and put little coils into the arteries to make them stop. Otherwise, surgery would have been necessary. And that day, he stabilized, and I think the following day is when we extubated him and he started the road to recovery.
Throughout the next few days, things start to turn around slowly but surely. Machines start leaving his hospital room, and then instead of the tube down his throat, he gets the tube out, and then they finally start taking him off of sedation, and he's slowly starting to come back into consciousness. And then he can start to drink water, and then he starts talking.
When I was waking up during that week, I always thought once you're in the hospital, you're under care. You have as much chance as you ever could possibly ask for.
The whole experience really opened my eyes to just the extensiveness of the hospital care system, from machines to the people. And
the doctors, huge, right? I'm not here without many qualified and exceptional doctors who happen to be great human beings. It doesn't work without great nurses who are great people, and I experienced that. But everybody else matters too.
The people bringing my dad food, and the people who are like filling the printer with ink.
And none of this works if the lights don't work, if we don't have power. I mean, there's so many people going to the business of healthcare, and all of those people matter. All of them matter. The person who checked me in, the person who welcomed my family, friends and family, the people who coordinated that, you being here.
It's just everybody at the hospital, whatever they did, they just responded to whatever was necessary.
And not only caring for me, caring for my family, and caring for all of the other people who are here at the same time, coordinating all of that. It's not just me. You have halls and halls and halls of people who have something going on, and they need that expert care and attention too. And that's what you guys do, and you're fantastic at it.
People ask, "Oh, how's your dad doing? Like, what's he been up to? Is he recovering?" And I just say, like, no, like he's recovered. Like, he's participating in life and doing it at an exceptional level, like he was doing it before the accident.
When Eric and I were talking about the question on how his life was changed, he felt like, I can't answer that question. My life hasn't really changed. And I said, that's the point. Your life was restored.
Yep.
The team of professionals here, the support of our friends, the love of our neighbors, our faith in God. And at the top of that list is Boulder Community Hospital, and we have them to thank.
Yeah, forever. Yeah, it's not just today, it's, for as long as we live.
I'm glad when people ask, like, how your dad's doing, like, I can say he's doing really well. So, and that's, yeah, it's because of Boulder Community Hospital. So, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Welcoming the Erickson family to the stage. We're going to adjust a little bit. Can our screen go up? And all the Erickson family, please come in and sit down. I think we'll start with introductions. Do you want to start on your end and tell us who you are and how you belong to this guy?
How's it going, everybody? Is the mic working? Hello. You guys hear me? Switch the microphones around, just turn them on. Check. Hello.
Keep going, it'll come.
All right, how's it going, everyone? Thanks, first off, for everyone being here. My name is Jeff Erickson. I'm Eric's youngest son.
Hi, it's good to be here. My name is Matt Erickson, and I also belong to this wonderful family.
I'm Sue Erickson. Thank you for being here.
My name's Eric. I am the one who gets to say thank you. Hey everybody, it's nice to see you. So I'm with the chaplain department. My name's Arik. Many of you know me, many of you don't, but to those who don't, it's well met. Glad to be here with the Erickson family. So my role at the hospital is to tether to families' needs and support needs during times of trauma, during times of hardship. And I had the privilege of being with the Erickson family from the moment they came in, really throughout a lot of their time there. I didn't see Eric a lot until after he woke up, but yeah, I was mainly supporting family. We're so moved. I think I'll speak for everybody in the audience. That was a really, really touching movie. And yeah, I'm just curious to hear about what your thoughts are about, or what landed with you about that, or if there's anything more that you wanted to share.
You know, when I first saw that movie last week, my first thought was, wow, that movie was really good. That was incredible. When you see Jess, she just had a baby a few days ago. When you see her back at the office, drop by, what a professional, just a representation of the kind of professional that works here. It's absolutely amazing. You know, the next thing I saw when I saw that movie, you know, my brother's here too, and we've ridden our bikes all over the country, especially when we were younger. But I think of all of the places I've been, and I've been a lot of places, and I've been on a lot of back roads around the world. And just to see that, where I call it when I got dropped, right? I got dropped at a half Ironman triathlon. I was not in that event, but I think of all the places that I've been, and that happened to be probably the most optimal place that I've ever been in 60 years in the entire world. So I want to give credit to God. Thank you, God, thank you, God, thank you, God, that I get a chance to speak to you today. There's no other way that this thing happens. This is all part of the huge plan that God has for all of us and for each of us individually. So I just want to acknowledge that first. And then you think of all of the stuff that happens, right? I'm probably the highlight of this movie for 12 seconds, really, until Kevin gets there, and then Bill right behind him. And then after that, it's all about you and every single person in here. And so many people from our community are in here too. And our community is throughout Boulder County, throughout Colorado, throughout our country. We have communities that supported my mom. My mom came out. She hadn't flown since before COVID. You know, community that supports my sons, the community of multi-decade community that supports my wife, and a lot of those folks are here from 30 to 40 years ago. And you know, of course, my friends and family, and my brother's here, my sister's here. Yeah, it goes on, and this doesn't really work without that community.
Do you feel like Matt and Jeff, you want to weigh in, or Sue?
Yeah, I thought that video was incredible. I remember watching it for the first time a few days ago, and I was just getting emotional because it's hard when you get a phone call that your dad's crashed and then he had a heart attack. It's hard to kind of wrap your mind around it, and kind of like what Matt was saying in the video is like I didn't really understand the severity of the issue until I kind of got there and I saw the tubes and I saw his face was yellow and all the surgeons there, and it's I really broke down. I remember it was very emotional for me then, and just kind of like reliving it now is crazy. So definitely credit to Boulder Community. So grateful that everything kind of came together. All the pieces kind of fit in, and it's just really amazing that we're even here today. And yeah, that's what I got to say. So thank you guys.
Yeah, walking in today and seeing everybody here and hearing about what the hospital's been doing for decades and the effort that's been put in and the coordination to move up certain levels and all these different treatments and cares and people is just so amazing. Like my dad's story is an incredible one, but Boulder Community Hospital has been doing this for years, and it will continue to save lives for years to come. And it's just, we're up here speaking, but it's not about us. It's about the people lives that will continue to be saved in the future, and the lives in the past that have been saved.
Yeah, what struck me in the video was when Kevin, the owner of the Boulder Rock Gym, talked about cars just going by, and are they going to stop? Are they going to stop? And then he stopped. And Bill, the firefighter who saved Eric's life, is here, and he stopped. And I want to be the kind of person that stops. And that's what struck me. So.
Thank you all for sharing about that. I think that there's one piece of this story that was present with the interview that we conducted at first when we were starting to get some footage for the documentary that we made, but I didn't see that come through in the video. And I'm just curious to hear more about, the cancer story, and that you're a survivor of cancer, and I know that you brought that up to me a number of times, and what more would you want to say about that?
Yeah, you almost kind of forget about that. But you're reminded about 13 seconds later. I think, in a way, I did the whole cancer thing, and if you haven't been through it yourself, you will have friends or family members that go through it. That's just a crazy thing. But cancer was so different because that was such a long lead up. And there were so many great things that happened actually around having cancer, and many of you people went through that journey with me. And I think of my brother Mark, who was there all the time, Pastor Mark, who was there all the time, Warner, who was there all the time. And I really appreciate you guys for just walking alongside me during that difficult cancer adventure. Yeah. But one of my friends who's here today, Charlie, was going, gosh, you had a heart attack. If you had a heart attack, what about us? Right? And so this was, his add to this was extremely helpful, and something I've reflected on since last July when he came by. And, it was 600 hours of chemo. My oncologist said that was the strongest chemo by far that he'd ever given anybody. And, of course, we all look to the internet now for medical advice. And Charlie said that, after that kind of intense chemo, stuff breaks. And you guys are medical professionals, you can add more to it than that, but that made sense to me. And so this heart attack resulting 4.5 years after I finished chemo, thank you, God, that was just a downstream effect of going through that cancer adventure. And, I've met a lot of great doctors, a tremendous amount of great nurses, healthcare professionals over the last 5.5 years that is just astounding. I don't have any better words than it's just astounding, and I'm so thankful, grateful, and blessed by the great people that I have come into contact who have helped me, helped my family get through these adventures. So much so that when I left Boulder Community Hospital last June, after being here for 10 days or so, it kind of made me think, did I choose the right career? Right? If I knew I had a chance to go to work with all of these phenomenal people every single day for my career, maybe I would have made a different choice. Because to be around all these great human beings who happen to be doctors, who happen to be nurses, who happen to be orderlies, who happen to bring the food, it really made me think about it and be so appreciative that you are here, that the A-team is here. And I was just thinking about this on the way over, so let me add this. I was thinking, when there's a job opening at Boulder Community Health, right? How many applications do you think they possibly get for being a trauma surgeon, for being a receptionist, for being a busboy? Thousands. right? So they get to choose whoever's in charge of that, chief medical officer, however they do that, the business person, the CEO, whoever. They are choosing the best of the best of the best. This is like going to Top Gun. For you as medical professionals, this is your Top Gun. This is Boulder. And for us as, the patients, we couldn't get better care anywhere else in the world because of the kind of team that's been put together here. And I was just reflecting on that when we were driving down Cherryvale on the way over. So there's so many reasons to be thankful, so many ways to be thankful, and I'm just thankful I have a couple of minutes to share that. So,
I think maybe the audience at this point is probably having a good taste of your optimism, and hopefully also feeling your appreciation of them. And speaking on that point of the optimism, I'm just curious more about the mindset that you were in as you were going through the treatments for cancer, and what that quality that you bring is.
I think one of the I don't know, everyone has a superpower or something, or we'd like to think we do anyway. I'd like to think that my gift, the gift that I was given, was to be optimistic and funny. That's up for debate. See? In difficult situations. And when I was going through the cancer treatment and you have to sit there and get your chemo, and if you don't know about it, you'll find out about it. And if you've been through it, you know. And I know we have some retired nurses in the audience too who are personal friends of ours. And so they know what this is like. And I tried to be a really good patient. My doctor, once he found out I was going to live, turned out to be a really great guy. We had a super relationship. And we just finished 5 years a few months ago, so done with that. But he was a super guy, and I really got a good chance to touch base with him every 6 months or so over the last 5 years. And but I tried to be a good patient, and I told him that at the end, and we were both sharing a guy tear, So we both did a little of that for our last appointment. And I mean that honestly, and I think he did too. And I tried to be the best patient I could, and it worked out. When he was telling me, I had 2 cancer diagnoses. One was the kind of cancer you die with, and the other one, re-diagnosed a month later, was the kind of cancer you die of. So when I was re-diagnosed, and he said, well, this is the kind of, long story short, this is the kind of cancer you die of, and it's pretty serious. This is a Tuesday, can you start chemo on Thursday? And I said, no, we have some plans to see Jeff and Matt at Parents Weekend. And he goes, well, you'll definitely have to come in Monday morning at 9 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, got it. But when he left, and I tried to be funny, but he wasn't taking it. And I said, Doc, you did a great presentation. I'm going to give you a 5-star Google review. And I reminded him of that story when we met in February for the last time. And I got a little smile anyway. So, I don't know. When I was in the hospital too, I guess I was pretty funny during that week that I recall as being unconscious. And I know there's a story about Bud Light, among other things. And that's for a different time. But I remember being super thankful too. I remember looking at my leg, and my left leg, I must have fallen on my left side. And Bill and Kevin saw that because my leg was killing me and had a huge black and blue on it. And the first thing I thought of, well, I'm alive. That's a win. I'm under care. And I always thought when I was going through cancer, is once you're under care, you have a chance. And so when I was here and I was kind of starting to process thoughts, I'm like, I'm under care. I got a chance. And thank you God, my leg's not broken. Because this would really be a pain in the ass if my leg was broken. Because it hurt. It hurt like that. My shoulders were killing me. But there's so much to be thankful for. As well hospitals are open 24/7. And they let you know that. So there's always people dropping by to say hi, or you're hooked up to whatever 20-something machines, but they still want to take your vitals. I mean, I don't know how that works. And there'll be more on that later. But there was so much to be thankful for throughout the whole process of going through that. I mean, my family's here, my kids are here, my mother's here, you guys are here. You have friends coming by to support my wife, to support my kids, to support me. And you know, it's just how you poopy when you're surrounded by all these great people. You just can't be. You can't be. And I don't think I was, and you can't be.
You've talked about kind of your experience and how grateful you are for the care that our team was able to provide, which I think is so important because our team often doesn't hear that and they don't get to meet people after they have left the hospital. As perpetual learners, are there opportunities that we could have done things differently that would make us better for the next patient?
Only one thing. And for a show of hands, has anyone spent a night in the hospital? Okay, about a third of you. So you're all familiar with 2:30 a.m. I mean, they just saw you at 11:30 p.m. They will see you at 6:30 a.m. And for some reason, they want to see you at 2:30 a.m. So the one thing you can do better is when you're checking on people at 2:30 a.m. is bring them vanilla pudding. That would kind of lighten the mood a little bit. Oh, we're here to take your vitals, and here's your vanilla pudding. There you go.
I believe that Eric actually requested the vanilla pudding and then got vanilla pudding every night at 2:30 a.m.
So I know you have vanilla pudding back there. I know you do, because I asked for it and I got it.
Sue, is there anything that kind of stood out to you during this time?
Wow. Well, Eric mentioned the team, and I can't help but acknowledge Eric as well as Buzz and the chaplain team, because we had so many people, friends and our neighbors that are here today, many of them, that were there in the waiting room, because it wasn't just Eric in the hospital. We were there 14 hours a day, got there at 7, left at 9 at night. And I remember Eric just coming and being present, talking, inviting people to pray if we wanted to, or to just have a conversation. So that was a huge piece of it as well. So want to thank you for your support. And then, I mentioned the community of people. Our son Matt started a caring bridge, and last I looked, there were, I think, 3,500 visits to
3,700 now.
He's a math guy. 3,700, goodness. And one time we found out, it hasn't been mentioned, Eric broke his ribs. I don't know how many, 6, 8, a lot. And they said, you'll need a recliner. Well, we don't have a recliner. We put it out on Caring Bridge, and we got 5 requests for a recliner. I see one of the people who mentioned we've got a recliner. And then someone brought by, we had 2 different walkers, the mountain bike kind and the regular kind. We had the shower chair, and things just showed up. And that first night, one of our neighbors just didn't even ask, she just said, I'm bringing you chicken enchiladas. We have another neighbor that's a chef, and he brought us 2 different French meals. And then Matt started a DoorDash too, and because we ate all of our meals there and often had our extended family there too, and we were able to use that DoorDash to pay for dinner for everyone. So that's just another piece that I would say. Of course, the Boulder Community Health team, but we were just so supported by our neighbors and friends and the community and our church, and just so incredibly grateful. We truly could not have gotten through this without that extended network. So,
yeah, people want to help. People want to be helpful, and I remember that first few days we needed to eat, and people were wanting to bring meals, and it just wasn't the right time. We had a lot going on, and so then I decided, hey, just send money for DoorDash, and like that's how you can help right now. We're gonna be fine. You don't need to come at the moment, but if you want to help, send money for DoorDash. And then within 12 hours, there was $500 in there, and people just continue to help. And I was like, well, I don't need to eat DoorDash for the next 2 months. We'll start the Caring Bridge and allow people to help. And through that's where we started updating people on my dad's condition, and just allowing people to be in your life and allowing people to help with whatever they can. I think that's something that I struggle with, is letting people help. Like at the end of the day, it's okay to not be able to do it all on your own. And this story of my dad is just it's apparent how many people are involved and how many people want to help, and we wouldn't be up here telling this story without the people helping today.
I think that's such a profound message, especially talking to a room of caregivers, because we often ourselves are not willing to accept that care. So thank you for sharing that, because I think we can all take a piece of that.
It's amazing to hear about the community that you have. It's amazing to hear about just the general support across the spectrum that you've had. And to me, it's something that's not to be underestimated during times of care. As to echo what Laura was saying, it's very important. It's absolutely huge. Yeah. Just curious if there's anything else that you're feeling like you want to share in the space. This is your time.
I just want to at least finish my little spot going. You know, I just want to thank all the members of this community, the healthcare community, our community, our friends and family, my family who's up here, my family who's in the audience, my brother and sister are here. It's what I was thinking of the other day, it is a force multiplier. If you're familiar with that, you get all of these things, you get great health care, you go home, you have a recliner. Thank you, God. Right? You have a great view from your hotel room, your hospital room. It's almost like a hotel. It is. It's because once you're feeling better, and I felt better pretty quick, once you're feeling better, it almost is like a hotel. And don't try this at home. But someone comes into your room with a meal that you selected off the menu. Again, don't try this at home. You give them your birthday, and they give you this awesome meal. You won't get a laugh at home, by the way. But it's really great. You should see the view from the room that I was in. Stunning. Stunning. How can you not get better? How can your mood not be elevated? How can this not work? You have, for me, hundreds of people who are reaching out to you going, how you doing? Or they're praying for you. That matters massively, right? My kids are here. My mother is here. I knew I was in trouble when I saw my mother, but there you go, right? You know, your wife is here. You have all of these great people surrounding you. It really multiplies all of the efforts together for good. And I just want to thank each and every one of you that's involved. If you weren't involved with me, you're involved with others. And I can only say thank you. But the community, for me, that's what did it. We were our friends on our street. We've been getting together for, barbecue, a grill out every summer night for the last 15 or so years. And some of those folks are here today. You know, friends from church for the last 30 years. The first person I ever met at church, Marty, he's here. He turned around 30 years ago this month and said, hi, my name is Marty. I'm like, oh my heavens. And he's been like that ever since. So, and I know he's here, and there he is. And I just want to thank him for being the kind of person he is. And you know, and you have Craig, and you have Warner, and my brother Mark is here with his wife Heidi. And it's just an amazing number of people that contribute to recovery and contribute to our lives and contribute to each other's lives. And thank you so much for being part of my life. You guys are absolutely amazing people, and I'm more than thankful, grateful, and blessed by all of you.
What would you all share to other individuals or families undergoing this kind of circumstance?
I can start. One thing that I did after I got back to San Diego, where I live, is I got certified by the Red Cross for CPR, and I did. And I was inspired by Bill, the off-duty firefighter that saved my dad's life. And I was inspired because I want to be the guy that is able to pull the car over and save somebody's life. And I know now I'll be ready for that if that ever happens. So that's one thing I would encourage is both like the skill set's important, but also like the confidence to know that you can be there if that situation ever comes up. So that's what I have, and that's what I'd share.
Wow. Yeah, for me, I think it comes down to being prepared to ask for help and allow others to help. And then what my brother was saying, be ready to answer the call when help is called upon. My mom called me on a Saturday afternoon, and I answered the phone. My dad crashed. The call will come where your help will be needed. And for those who are working in the hospital, that call comes almost every day. Boulder Community Hospital was our home for 2 weeks. We got up, we went to the hospital, we hung out, we ate our meals there, we walked around the creek path there. I was able to nap in the couches there. It was our home for 2 weeks, but for those who work, it's your home for years. And that call will come, and it comes every day, and I encourage those to keep doing what they're doing. And it's been an amazing experience.
Wow. Yeah, I think sometimes it takes a humbling place to ask for help, but I think that that's important for us to do. And then to respond and to, as I mentioned before, be that person that even though it may be inconvenient or like Bill was going to his daughter's softball game, and I don't know if he got there by the first inning or not, but he pulled over, and just realizing that we could be that person ourselves, and so we want to do unto others as we would want them to do unto us. So.
And thanks to Bill and his colleagues at North Metro Denver Fire, we're going to be starting a CPR class for our community at our church right down the street from here, and that's going to be May 18th, and we're going to look forward to doing that 2 to 3 times a year going forward. So hopefully we'll train other people to be like a Kevin, who owns a rock gym, to be that person who can help until professionals like Bill show up and can lead the charge from there. But like Matt and Jeff said, I wouldn't want to be that person, especially now. Oh my heavens, especially now who sees someone fall on the side of the road and I don't know what to do. I do never, ever want to be in that situation. So I'll be taking the CPR class May 18th, and hopefully many others in our South Boulder community will as well. So thanks to Bill and his team, and thanks to all you do for all of us. Appreciate it.
If you were involved in the care of Mr. Erickson, could you please stand? I just want to say that I'm so grateful that I get to be part of the team, and we are really excited to continue to do this every day. I also want to say, as a new boy mom, Sue, thank you so much for the feelings wheel. It's worked with your boys, and I can't wait to do it with my boy. We're going to move into the lunch period, but I'd really like to encourage everyone to please, if you cared for Mr. Erickson and his family, come up and say hello and shake his hand and give him an opportunity to say hello as well.
We are so glad you're here with us and so glad you made it through, and continue to be that positive optimism for all the people that you meet. Yeah, you have such a gift to give.
Thank you.
Thank
Round of
you.
applause.